Hello and welcome to the 2021 Magic City Mega Bowl presented by Dynamic Discs. Today we are at Clay Disc Golf Course. I'm Jared Neal here with
James Hawkins. Let's see the action.
So Clay Disc Golf Course is a mix of some open shots and some wooded shots, but it has a few holes that definitely have some elevation on it. So here's our feature card for round one coverage, and we'll give a little introduction as they step up to the tee.
All right, here's hole one. It's a par 4, 838 feet. This is probably the most open hole in the course. We do have OB along the left side, along the tree line, as well as a rope going down off the tee about 400 feet out. And then as soon as you get past the 400 feet mark, you don't have to worry about the OB on the right.
So here we have Michael Johansen playing for Discraft. He comes out of the North Carolina area. And Michael is electing for the roller, which is actually really good play if you can lay down the power behind the roller. However, it needs to lay down. Ooh, I'm curious to see exactly where that finished, because that may have actually rolled OB left.
It's going to be close. Here we have Silas Schultz. He's based out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, rated 1009, plays for Discmania.
And Silas has some power behind his throw, so as you see here, I would expect Silas to just air out a shot and not have to worry about putting a roller down. But to me, it looks like, yep, he is well past that out of bounds area. Next on the tee, we have Matt Dollar. Matt is out of Georgia. He's 1,002 rated, and he's throwing for MVP.
He lays down the roller here. Doesn't quite. It kind of stands up on him a little bit too soon. Doesn't quite pass the OB line there, so he will be remarkably far back. Here we have Scott Conway. He is out of Greenville, North Carolina. Making the drive for this tournament. I think he played a couple others while he was down here. Going for the air shot. Being well safe there.
And Scott plays for Dynamic Discs, and he will round out this sponsor feature card too. Yeah, just like James said, Matt is actually having to take that next shot down at the front of the OB area. And it looks like he's laying down another roller, and it looks like he's going to have a little bit more success out of this one. The tricky part about this grass is the grass level is just high enough you can throw a roller, but it's still a little bit high in areas that can actually kind of eat up a lot of the power that you put on it, and it has random little patches that are a little squishy that you can't really see off the tee.
Great shot for Scott there. He's going to put that in circle one there. He's going to have a chance for a birdie. Looks like MJ did stay inbounds. Goes for the air shot. Kind of pulls that one over a little hard. Looks like he's trying to fight back pretty good. He'll have an opportunity there from circle two.
So I'm really curious to see exactly how Silas approaches this. If I had to guess, it's probably just going to be kind of a hyzer out to the right, let it dunk towards the basket. And yeah, so that's a pretty routine hyzer up shot for Silas. He got a lot of the distance off the tee, so that becomes pretty routine for him.
Can't play it much better than that.
So good run from Matt. He was trying to save that par from a distance.
That's how it's done. Let's see that run back.
So if you've ever played with MJ, you know he's a pretty smooth thrower. He's a pretty smooth putter, but he's kind of like a lock and load, ready to go style putter. As soon as he lines it up, he's ready to go, and you saw that just right in the heart of the chains.
A lot of times he'll throw a shot and just not even watch it because he knows exactly what he did, exactly what he wanted to do.
And there's Scott picking up his birdie with a pretty routine C1 putt.
Great birdie from Silas there.
Unfortunate bogey for Matt. He just got caught up in that OB. His shots overall were not that bad. Just that's the one thing about those rollers with that little bit of rolling hill. If it doesn't hit that angle just right and starts rolling out early, it just kind of doesn't have a chance to get the distance that you need.
Do you suffer from a common yet financially draining condition called I need more discs-itis? Let's talk about the best solution, coming from me, a real doctor. Head over to Dynamic Discs Iron City for an incredible selection of both used and new plastic. With new inventory constantly arriving, you're guaranteed to find that brand new driver to give you an extra 50 feet. You don't have to do this alone. Head over to Dynamic Discs Iron City and join the Iron Throne.
So James, what can you tell us about hole 2? I know this is a newer pin position. I don't believe we've ever used this for a tournament. What's your take on it?
Well, this is a very new pin position. They actually just put this in a few months before this tournament. Did quite a bit of work to clear that up. It's a par 4. Well, it says it's par 3 for the tournament. However, pros are going to play this for a 2-shot hole. They're going to just kind of throw it out there in the open, try to get it close to this shorter basket here, which is the regular basket. I believe some divisions actually played this basket. And then pitch it up there for a 3.
So based on the people on this feature card, I would think that the person that could probably get it to the closest to this basket would be Silas. I know as a power thrower, this is actually quite a pump to get the angle to travel up the hill, but also get it relatively close to the basket. Like you said, James, a lot of people are actually playing to the short pin here. There's a big flat green area, and then more or less just pitching up to the pin. So it is a par 3 hole. However,
there's an interesting play here.
Oh yeah,
Go with the roller from that dollar. He gets well in good position there.
Matt is the only person I've heard of to throw a roller off that tee. And I know for most of these guys, unless you're pinched off by these trees right here, I mean, it's a pretty routine 3.
Yeah, this is pretty much just execute the shots here. Nice, easy approach for Scott. He'll have probably 15 to 20 foot putt there. Yeah, great result from that roller.
Wow, and that's how you do it. 2 shots right next to the bucket.
Silas going for had actually a decent look for a putt there. It was 80 feet or so.
So it looks like this hole is being played pretty routine. Kind of be expected. Like we said, this is the first time that this pin position has actually been used for a tournament. So I could imagine maybe seeing a few tweaks on this pin placement for future tournaments.
That's very possible. There's actually a little bit more room back behind this basket. I don't know if they can actually use that, but if they bumped it back another 100 to 150 feet, it would actually be a pretty decent par 4, I believe.
And that's true. They actually, up there on the flat, you start to get into the ball fields. So here we have hole 3, not a far distance, 326 feet. As you get closer to the tee, you kind of have this reverse arrow of more or less reminiscent of USDGC's mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, and we have this stacked basket here. We have, as you can see on the basket, it says Pro on the top and AM on the bottom. That is that was envisioned by Danny Self, who did a lot of the work out here, a lot of the design work as well. So we are playing to the top basket here, so it is more or less an elevated pin.
And Michael Johansen showing us exactly how you need to throw this basket. Silas putting it right there too. We do notice they did a good job of covering up the lower basket for the pros, so that way there would be no confusion.
Yeah, and it does say 326, which is the actual distance, but it is deceivingly uphill. It actually plays probably around 360 or so.
Yeah, most of these players are actually going for maybe a shorter fairway drive or something so they can utilize a little bit more of that speed. So as they are throwing it uphill, they're not having to put as much power as I would normally think you would see some putters and mid-ranges on this distance of a hole. But like you said, with the uphill, it seems like a little people are speeding it up a little to make it a little easier. And man, Scott almost drained that from outside circle one.
See Dollar having to go to the straddle here because of the poles. Makes good on the birdie putt.
Kind of the same thing too. You know, Silas, you see, is coming to a straddle. I wonder if that pole behind him actually kept him from doing kind of like a straight up stagger stance putt.
That's possible. Gonna be routine for Michael Johansen there.
So 3 birdies and a par on this hole. Not too bad.
Here we have hole 4, and this is very reminiscent of USDGC at Winthrop, hole 7. This is a par 3, 270 feet. We are playing Mandos, a mandatory in between, so you have to actually go through the gate, which there is a drop zone right there before if you miss. This also plays uphill. Wow, that's textbook right there.
Yeah, so this gap actually doesn't look as wide as MJ made it from the tee pad when you're actually standing there in tournament. As you can see from Silas, just a slight degree off on your throw, and it's going to carry you to the side of those poles that you need a field goal.
Yeah.
And James, I'm not sure if you saw it in your round, but in my round, I saw players actually lay up to the mouth just to ensure that they didn't miss the mandatories.
We did have a few that did that on my card as well. You got these couple of North Carolina players, and woo!
Wow, what about that run?
He's buzzing the tower there. Scott and Michael Johansen, they're North Carolina players, so they're used to the woods, as well as Matt Dollar there with the Atlanta courses. So they're used to hitting gaps.
So Silas just showed a pretty common, if you miss the tee shot, a lot of times you'll get the bounce off the bamboo, so you're not actually breaking the mandatory plane. But it leaves you with just such an awkward upshot. If you don't take your medicine right to the gap, then it's left with either a really harsh hyzer or, like he showed, just like a really sawed off kind of Annie shot. I saw that quite often, and it's really like how you want to attack or approach this tee. Like you said, for the North Carolina guys who are used to some pretty small gaps, this probably actually looked pretty wide. So for Scott and MJ, like, I definitely imagine them just being able to eat this hole alive.
Oh yeah.
All right, so hole 5. This is a par 3. Distance is 409. It's extremely uphill. Not only that, you can see the short basket over to the left, which actually has a mandatory arrow. The tree on the right-hand side has a mandatory arrow. And then all of this space around the basket actually has a rope. So there's OB surrounding the basket up to a certain point. And here you see MJ. Actually, that's a pretty good shot. At first, it looks short, but it's really uphill. You really have to put a pump up there.
Yeah, everyone's going to be playing this as a 2-shot hole. So, you're probably not going to see any twos on this without, barring a throw in. So there's going to be probably a lot of threes unless someone finds OB or misses Amanda somehow.
Okay, that's exactly what he needed. You
say
can
it-
see
I
that
say
yellow
everybody's
line right
praying
there. It's an extremely risk reward hole. If you have the arms that can throw the hole, even getting it through the mandatory gap doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stop by the basket. And see, that's how close that back line is. And then see, Dollar's just squeaked out of
Just
bounds.
2 feet out of bounds.
If he would have gotten that little cut roll back, it would have been inbounds, probably right in the center of that green. MJ playing very smart.
Wow, here's a putt from Silas. He's just going to lay that up. Take
Smart
his easy
play.
3 and move on.
So Dollar did a really good job just, not adding any additional strokes. It's a little unfortunate that his disc stayed out of bounds, but he made that putt. He minimized any scoring errors, and now it's the next hole.
That's very uncharacteristic of Johansen there. One thing I do have to say about this course is as soon as you get to this tee of hole 5, it does seem like you're walking uphill for the next 5 holes after that. You have 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 is on top. So you are walking uphill constantly for a good 30 or 45 minutes.
That's right. This kind of baby mountain ridge line.
The National Amateur Disc Golf Tour. Take your first step into competition or your final step into professionalism. Visit nadgt.com for more information.
Okay, here we have hole 6. This is a new pin location as well. This is 284 feet, par 3. Right where the camera is, right about now is usually where the shorter pin is. However, they put this out into the open. It's pretty uphill, and it curves to the right. So it takes a very technical shot to get there.
And you don't want to put too much power either, because if you blow past this pin, all that open space back there has its own elevation. So it slopes off to the back and the left, as you can see here. So rollaways
Rollaways are very
definitely
very
on the
susceptible.
forefront of your mind on this hole.
That is very unfortunate. That's the elevation showing its teeth right there. There's that rock right there that you have to get over if you're throwing that forehand.
So where MJ shot is landing, it's a little bit left of where you want to be. There's actually some overhanging branches you don't want to get stuck under. However, there are a couple little windows that come out of there. As you can see to the right-hand side, that's kind of where MJ is, when that kind of kudzu growing up over the branches. So like you mentioned, you do need to get over this rock. If Silas would have thrown that on the flat hole, it would have been a great sidearm.
Just got to keep turning a little bit. You'll actually have somewhat of a putt from right there.
So that's Scott after that roll away. So he rolled a decent ways down that hill.
This is quite a treacherous green too. If you you can actually roll on the back side of that green as well.
For the next few holes, there's definitely one or two sides of the green that can really roll away. You'll have some woods, especially 2 holes from now.
Oh, man.
Oh, that is fantastic.
That's an incredible par save from Silas right there. It's a good 45 feet or so.
That's a confidence putt right there.
Yeah. That's a statement.
You see that big grin? He knew he hit a good one on that one.
Dollar matching
Nice
with the
birdie.
Can't imagine there were too many birdies on this hole.
Not too many, but Dollar did the right thing. He took his time. He didn't overpower his putt. He gave it a nice run, but enough of an effort that it would have probably slowed down had he have just hit the basket or missed it.
Wow.
MJ was a lot more open, I thought, from where he would have landed off the tee shot.
Well, his tee shot, he really controlled the angle and to where he could land it flat with the hill to where it wouldn't actually roll back down the hill. That actually gave him a good position to get the.
So hole number 7, 242 feet. You have a little bit of upward elevation, then it slopes down and kind of veers off to the right. I really like this hole. For me, if you have a good softer turnover shot, or if you have a shorter chip sidearm shot, I feel like is the perfect shot for this hole. You see here MJ throwing just a buttery turnover right there next to that log. It's a really good place. That log actually catches a lot of things from going too far.
Just hits one of those guardian trees on the way in.
This is definitely a hole. If you're a little wide, you will nail one of those trees. But more often than not, you throw it straight up the middle with a little tip turn, and it'll go right onto the basket.
I think the hill right in front of the tee pad really makes players think about their shot a little more. It's not just your straightforward slight turnover shot, because you actually have to throw it in the air a little bit.
And how about
get
that?
A good angle control.
Silas just hit the lock.
Wow.
Oh, and I thought I would have
last
said,
guardian tree.
yeah, I would have said Scott had the exact same line as Silas, just slightly higher.
Yeah, still going to put him inside the circle, so he will have an opportunity for his birdie there.
So fortunate enough, because this hole is on the shorter side, even though Dollar hit that early kick, he still had a run at the basket.
Just slightly high. That's just routine right there.
This is definitely one of those holes, after playing it, you feel like you should definitely get a birdie on. However, like we mentioned earlier, that slight degree of off and you hit a tree and you don't hit the long putt, it's a pretty easy three.
Yeah, most of the holes out here, you go into it thinking you have to birdie this hole, but they're not necessarily gimme holes, like gimme birdie holes. Here we have hole 8. This one is uphill, and it is a tunnel for sure. 295 feet. This one here, there's all kinds of, you see the log down in the fairway there. There's all kinds of rocks here that can make your disc stand up and roll. It can roll 40, 50 feet down to the right. Wow.
Oh, he almost got one of those rolls you were talking about.
Michael Johansen putting it up there.
This hole is definitely a hole where the landing angle of your disc is pretty crucial. Because as you're seeing Silas right here, he just hit the ground with just a little too much hyzer and started that roll, but then he caught one of those rocks and laid it down.
Yeah.
The next couple holes are kind of unique because they have so many rocks in the fairway for being on top of this ridge line.
I think that stood up and rolled a little bit. That was just slightly right. Scott's playing this very smart. He's playing it up to the left side, which is typically less susceptible to roll when you hit up there.
Yeah, it's a little bit flatter up there. If you throw a disc kind of straight down the tunnel, let it kind of fade off to the left, that's natural little fade off for a right-hand backhand player. They'll tend to stick on that high side.
Mm-hmm.
And you were right, it looks like Dollar did get a little roll, and even just being that far off the fairway, this is still a pretty good scramble shot even after hitting that late tree.
Yeah, he's got about a 20-foot putt left.
So this shows you a little bit of how uphill this hole is. From where Silas was putting, that basket is completely over his head. Like, even the lock on the basket is well above his head. And that was a good little cleanup from Dollar. MJ doing more MJ things. Birdie after birdie. This is a course that definitely rewards more technical throwers. A lot of the holes aren't overtly difficult, but somebody that can hit a very technical will shoot pretty low on this course.
Definitely have to execute shots out here, that's for sure.
So hole number 9, we finally get up to the top of this ridge line, 332 feet. You can see all these rocks we were talking about sitting on the fairway, so you're not going to get a lot of ground play once your disc hits the ground. But as you get towards the basket, it kind of opens up a little bit. So if you give it a little bit of run, it does have a chance to. It kind of falls off to the left. You still have some woods, but that's a little left-hand downhill on that side.
Michael Johansen throwing that a little right, catching one of those last trees.
So Scott released a little low and he hit one of those rocks we were talking about and just popped it straight up. Luckily, it just kind of killed the forward progression rather than rolling downhill to the left.
Oh, look at this shot. That's going kind of down the hill like you said there, Jared. However, he's still going to be edge of circle for his birdie opportunity.
That just hit one of the overhanging branches and just kind of killed all of its momentum. I know it looked like he was playing a little tight flex line through there. So that's the same spot that Silas's drive went through, but he got it a little bit lower, so it actually caught early. So he's going to be a lot closer to the basket. Should be probably a pretty routine putt. MJ, nice little layup.
There's a very nice view up here towards the top. When you get to this basket, you can look down and see all the fields down there.
Yeah, so those ball fields you can see in the background, that's on the flat that hole 2's basket was on top of. So hole 1 is even further down than that. So that just shows you some of the elevation change that these guys are playing with as they have to go up and down this little mini mountainside.
There, I think they're talking about actually throwing one off the top of the hill there.
So here's your feature card scores through hole 9.
Dynamic Discs Iron City, home of Alabama's largest retail disc golf selection. With an amazing trade-in program, you can get all the help you need towards all of your disc and accessory needs. Be sure to check out Dynamic Discs Iron City both in person and online.
All right, here we have hole 10. Now, this one is a very technical hyzer shot. It's 230 feet uphill. This is probably the easiest hole in the course, to par at least, especially for this pro group. You just want to throw a hyzer shot out there and have it end up left through a gap.
The only thing they really have to worry about this shot is hitting the tree early and actually bouncing to the right. So there's a barbed wire fence line that goes on the right hand side, and all of that over the fence line is out of bounds. However, if they do land close enough, they do get 2 meter relief off the barbed wire fence.
Yeah, per PGA rule, yes. It's easily inside the circle there. There are a couple larger rocks and stumps and things up near where they're landing. Oh, see Scott hit one right there and it bounced back. That's one of the tricky things about this green.
So another thing about this hole is, as tight as this fairway seems to be with the fade in, it's actually lost quite a few trees over the past 2 years from storms and everything that have come through. So the gaps that we're seeing now are actually a lot wider than they used to be. Ooh, that was a good one from Silas. So Scott's got a little bit of a death putt because it does drop off behind the basket there. Ooh,
It's that low,
but no worries for
low
him.
left side.
Yeah, I think you won the years at Ace here where I had to lead after the first round. So, yeah, there was then like you, Stolberg, and that definitely had to be the longest stretch though, because I think that play for.
Now this looks like a pretty routine cleanup for the rest of the guys. Just moving on with their par. No harm, no foul.
I think that does it for our front 10 holes. See you guys with the back 9.